Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related podcast on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on our quaint little studio. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys come on by and join us. And on this Friday, I'm joined, as always, by writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
I'm here. I'm chipper. I was up all night with the dog, but hey, I'm here, John. I'm ready to go. I want to talk weapons.
Yeah, your dog had a bit of a health scare.
Yeah. He ate part of a sprinkler, and it got a pipe there, and it almost killed him. But there was a hole in it so he could still breathe, but he had to have it removed from his esophagus. Sebastian, he's a poodle, purebred. He's a great dog.
Pets are pets. All right, guys, listen. They are. It's good to have you guys here joining us, and here's how today's show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a bunch of predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, that's when we're going to take your live comments and questions. Now, here on Fridays, Jonathan has the day off, not every Friday, but most Fridays, and I can't really pull in the tip link questions that you guys normally send. At least it's a little more difficult. So today, we're going to use the super chat feature. That means if you're watching the show live, and you got to be watching live, you can send in a question using the super chat feature there in the live chat that you can see. And as long as I deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, we will address your super chats in the second part of the show. You can send them in now if you'd like, and we'll just get around to answering them on the second part of the show. All right, guys. That all down, let's start off with this, shall we? Tom Cruise, some of you may know, has a new movie on the go called Deeper that he's doing with his Live, Die, Repeat, No Shoutouts Tomorrow, Punchies, No Takebacks movie that he did with Doug Liman a few years ago, Doug Liman. And that movie's called Deeper. And Deeper also is the movie he's doing with Ana de Armas. Well, according to the reports, that little movie has hit a little bit of a snag. And the snag is money. Because apparently Doug Liman and Tom Cruise want $275 million to make this movie. To put that into perspective, that's $55 million more expensive than the Superman movie was. Like, that's really high. Apparently, they're drawing a line in the sand at like 200, maybe. The different reports are saying different things, Rob. Some are saying that they want it down at 200. Some are saying 230. But it's gotten so bad now that according to the new reports, because we've heard like last month that they might have some budget fights going on with Warner Brothers. Well, apparently now it's so bad that they're saying director Doug Liman may have already left the project. They're saying Doug Liman now is already kind of putting feelers out there as far as what he wants his next film to be, because I guess for him now, his next film ain't going to be Deeper. So, Rob, maybe that means Tom Cruise and Ana de Armas are going to break up now? I don't know. But look, this is yet another film we're hearing about that Warner Brothers is kind of drawing a line in the sand to say, we've got to start getting these budgets under control. We just talked the other day, Rob, about Michael Mann and his Heat 2, and that what did he want for that movie? $200 and something million.
Yeah.
And Warner Brothers has said, no, we're not giving you that much money to make this movie. There's no way that's going to hit our break-even point. And they're saying much lower. And now here they are again saying, no, this is too much. And Rob, when you look at, listen, I like the new Mission Impossible movie. I do. Like, I had a good time with it. I don't think it's the best one, but I thought it was fun. But when you look at the box office that it made, that doesn't justify making a $275 million movie. I don't care if your name is Tom Cruise. Like, it just can't happen. Anyway, you're hearing about this story. Do you think Warner Brothers is just being cheap? Do you think they're being wise by saying you can't have that much? Hey, it's Tom Cruise, the guy who did Top Gun Maverick that made well over $1 billion. Give him whatever he wants. I don't know. What's your take on this?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, John. If you look at the last two Mission Impossible movies, you have to assume they both sort of underperformed. You have a friend, and I was able to speak with him at CinemaCon, who actually greenlights movies, and for a studio. And we were talking the economics of this, and you can't a non-IP film, at $275 million, I think is wildly irresponsible. I mean, think about it. We're now living in a world where Tom Cruise just gets $200 million. How about he makes a movie? The example I always use is Steven Spielberg. When he made 1941 back in the late 70s, it went wildly over budget, and it didn't do very well. And when George Lucas hired Spielberg to direct Raiders, he said, look, you're going to get $20 million. You can't go over schedule. You got to work fast. And Spielberg changed his style accordingly and gave us one of the greatest movies ever made. And I think that you got to pull back on these budgets. You're making an undersea adventure. I mean, are you going to make it better than The Abyss or whatever? I mean, are you going to go do what James Cameron did? Jimmy C and looked at an empty nuclear power plant that was never finished. And he's like, yeah, let's go build a set in there and we can fill it with water and shoot for real underwater. And he did it. But he didn't need no $250 million, even though it was back in the late 80s. There's just too much money there. And there's no way, if you think about the break even, by your own Campea Classroom metrics, that's a lot of money just to break even. A studio can't do that. And Warner Brothers, under Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca and David Zaslav are doing what studios should do and put their feet down and say, hey, we want to make a movie with you, but not for $250 million or $275. Make it for $175 million and we'll talk.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you can't make a movie for $175 million, you need to rethink the business you're in.
Especially if the word Avengers isn't at the front of it or is a massive thing like that. To your point about like break-even points and everything like that, Mission Impossible is a popular, celebrated IP. And this last one, they kind of heralded as the last hurrah, the final reckoning with the biggest stunts he's ever done. And it didn't make 600 million.
Nope.
Now it made like 580, 590, which a lot of movies would kill to make. But that box office of a long-running, popular, successful IP. And then you say, well, Tom Cruise and Ana de Armas together. Nothing could go wrong. Really?
Coming off Ballerina?
Ana de Armas' last movie made $130 million and change worldwide. That's not to say she's not great. She is great.
Yeah.
But if you think just putting Tom Cruise and Ana de Armas in a movie that's a non-IP film with an unproven title, and you can just, I mean, listen, seriously, at $275 million, understanding Tom Cruise is going to demand a robust marketing budget, So let's put that at, say, like $125 million for a marketing budget. At minimum, by the way. You're now talking about a film that at minimum, at a $275 million budget, you're talking about a film that at minimum is going to require like $600 million plus just to break even. And Ana de Armas' last film didn't come anywhere near that. Nope. And Tom Cruise's last film didn't get to there. So I'm just wondering if you're Tom Cruise and his agent sitting in the office of Warner Brothers, Rob, what's your pitch to Warner Brothers to justify and try to get a $275 million budget?
I don't have a pitch. I would say that if you gave me that much money, I'll make a trilogy. I mean, we'll amortize the cost and shoot them all at once. You'll get 3 movies for the cost of one. I mean, you just can't spend that kind of money on an untried property. And I don't look, if Tom Cruise was smart, look, the last 2 Mission Impossible movies were not hugely profitable, if profitable at all, for Paramount. He should go make his Les Grossman movie for $75 million. That's what I would do.
Yep.
You know, I would go make
100 times. Yep.
Yep. You know, you go make a comedy for little money. You and McHugh go do it. You know, make it really funny. Work with Ben Stiller. Do whatever you have to do. Do the Les Grossman movie, and then make that movie make $500 million. You know, turn it into a real event comedy, R-rated, hardcore, funniest movie you've ever seen, and the studio gets to make a lot of money and profit. That's what you got to do. You can't come off 2 Mission Impossible movies that cost huge. Those movies cost huge money. I mean, if you listen to what Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning might have cost, it could be one of the most, if not the most expensive movie ever made. So, coming off that, why don't you go do something small and have fun, prove your box office worth, and then maybe come back and ask Warner Brothers. I mean, look, everyone's tightening their budgets these days. Everyone's trying to figure out how can we stay viable in this new world that we live in. And to ask for 275 million or whatever they're asking for is just
275 million. 275 million. And listen, actually, if you think historically, to your point, the last time Tom Cruise's career was in question, it was round about the time that Steven Spielberg's and his War of the Worlds came out. You know, the public was starting to sour on Tom Cruise a bit, whether it was all the Katie Holmes jumping on the couch stuff or the Scientology stuff or whatever it was. The public was starting to sour on Tom Cruise. And then came Tropic Thunder. And he did a role that a lot of people wouldn't picture Tom Cruise doing when he played Les Grossman. And he slayed it. He killed it. And just like that, he won everybody back over, and it completely revitalized his career. Maybe this is the time to go back to Les Grossman again. Again, a $580, $590 million movie in Final Reckoning is nothing to sneeze at. But to your point, when you're one of the most expensive films of all time, maybe that's not it. Maybe it's go do Les Grossman again and get everybody back on board.
Well, I mean, and you know, he's done, like, when he goes back and does movies, like I really liked American Made, which I also think he did with Doug Liman, where he
very good movie.
Yeah, I really, really liked that movie. I thought he was terrific in it. And it was a great character role for him. I like to see him playing. He's a good actor, and giving him parts to play rather than, I mean, Ethan Hunt is more of an archetype than a character, but I love watching him emote. You know, I can't get enough of things like Jerry Maguire and A Few Good Men and Born on the 4th of July, when I want to see him go back and that Les Grossman character, that was all him. You know, he told Ben Stiller, I want to have fat hands and dance. And he did it. And I would like to see that Tom Cruise. He killed it.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? So Warner Brothers, again, we were just talking about them saying no to Michael Mann for the budget he wants for Heat 2, and now they're saying no to Tom Cruise. And listen, I'm all for it. You got to start acting more financially responsible. You ain't going to break even with a $275 million movie on a totally unproven IP when Tom Cruise can't pull in $600 million. Again, that's a big number. I'm not taking anything away from that, but with a proven title like Mission Impossible. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, Weapons is now in theaters, and it is holding a robust 96% critic rating and an extremely high 90% audience rating. We heard a lot of people talking. We heard a lot of people being excited. We heard a lot of people, you know, just basically talking about how great this movie's going to be and how great this movie is and how much they can't wait to see it and all that kind of jazz. And we finally had a chance to see it yesterday. Rob and I saw it separately, but we went to go see the movie yesterday. I went to go see it at 2:17 p.m., which is, of course, is the time in the middle of the night when all the children disappear. And I will tell you my thoughts. First of all, let me say, it is not my favorite film of the year. That title still, I believe, belongs to Sinners. And it is not in like my top 5 favorite horror films of all time. But it's real good. I had a great time with this movie. And I'll tell you why. Here's the main kind of thing to it that made me just absolutely love it. When you're talking about comedy, you guys have heard me say this before. When you're talking about comedy and horror are very unique amongst all the other genres. In the sense of, if you're doing a biopic, you need to do a lot well in the movie to make it work. If you're doing a historical piece, you got to do a lot well to make it work. If you're making a dramatic thriller, you got to do a lot to make the movie good overall, right? There's no just one or two things you can do well and do everything else badly and expect to get away with it. But in comedy, you make people laugh, they'll forgive everything else that goes wrong in your movie. In horror, you deliver the chills and people will forgive almost everything else. And by that reasoning, there are a lot of classic horror films that I love, that I think are really good, that aren't necessarily strong in all areas, Rob. Like maybe there's some great classic horror films that don't necessarily have the best script or the best narrative structure or, all that kind of stuff. To me, Weapons is a movie of what happens when you cross good horror with great storytelling. This is a movie that is a representation of good horror mixed with great storytelling. I have never, this isn't a spoiler, if you haven't seen the movie, you'll have no idea what this means. I have never had the sound of a door opening freak me out so much in a movie. And once you see the movie, you'll know what I mean. You don't even see it. You just hear a door. And that's like everybody in my theater, you can hear going, like gasping. It was kind of crazy. So it delivered some good chills. It delivered some good horror elements, right? But there are many movies that tell their story from multiple points of view. Right? We've seen a lot of movies do that. It's not rare where like you're seeing the story told from one character's point of view and then they switch it to a different character's point of view and it fills in gaps. I've rarely seen that motif done better than in Weapons. Like, because when they switch to the next person's perspective, not only does it tell you the events of what's going on from a different point of view, each time they switch people's perspectives, it fills in different gaps of the story. So you as the audience member are piecing together the story as you're moving on. And then by the time it got to the end of it, I was thrilled. And Rob, this is what I said in my out of theater reaction. And I'm giving nothing away. I'm not going to explain how it does this or whatever. I walked out of the theater feeling very satisfied. To me, it was a very satisfying ending. Even some horror films I really love, I don't walk out with a satisfied feeling or a feeling like it had a satisfied ending. Now, the one issue that Ann and I talked about in the car coming home was, and I'll break this down into generalities, but it can basically fall under the heading of inconsistent logic within the story itself.
Yes.
Now, don't get me wrong. Where it is rock solid is in all of it's not like two different points of view contradicted each other. That was perfect. Like all the various points of view, everything just flowed together and fit together like puzzle pieces. But when you stand back at the overall global view of the movie, particularly when it comes to one character, and we won't say which character it is, but there's one character whose motivations and things that they do so meticulously in one way, yet so sloppy in another, it just kind of feels a little bit inconsistent on that way. But Rob, for me, that didn't take anything away from the movie. For me, I left feeling fully satisfied, had a great time with it, thought it was a well-told story. Again, I don't think it's going to end up in my top 3 or 4 best movies of the year, but I walked out having had a really good time. And Ann and I, this is a good sign of that. Ann and I ended up just talking about the movie for like a good hour after it. So actually, you got the text message she sent out. She was very proud of that text message, by the way.
She sent out an emoji. She wrote Weapons in emojis.
Yeah, she told the whole story of Weapons.
Told the whole story
in like 50 emojis.
Yeah, it was really, really well done. My favorite was she added the bowl. the bowls.
Yes, which again, you won't know what that means.
Yeah.
But so Rob, you were more excited about this movie than I was. What was your overall impressions with the film? What worked, what didn't work? How did you feel about it?
Well, first of all, I think I had read the script, and it was, in fact, the script that I read. But watching a finished film is very different than reading a screenplay. And I would say that the movie is very well directed. It's very well put together. The actors did a phenomenal job. From a technical standpoint, it was great. I was deliriously excited to see this movie, like really, really excited. Like you said, for me, where the movie fell short is totally in universe. So I can't even explain where my problems with the movie come in and why they exist, but they're all in universe. And for me to address those points would diminish the experience of anyone seeing the movie. But I'll just say this. When you are creating horror, science fiction, and fantasy, and there is an element of, say, the supernatural, and I'm not saying there is an element of the supernatural in this movie, but if there was, you have to set up rules and you have to explain, like, we need to know. I'll give you a perfect example. The movie The Ring, as outlandish as it is, when you find out, you put in the videotape, you get a phone call, you hear 7 days. I mean, who cares if Sadako or Samara are in the afterlife somewhere with a clock ticking down going, oh, you watched my videotape, I'm going to call you on the phone. You don't even think about that. You just go, the movie presents its rules. And if you think about, like, where is Sadako or Samara when she's making these phone calls, it doesn't matter. They set up the rules and you go with them. You never question yourself when you're watching The Ring. And The Ring is effing great. Both the Japanese version and Gore Verbinski's version. In this movie, the end of the film, there were so many logic issues for me. I was asking, the big question is, why? And I'm just going to say why. And I'm going to leave it there. And I wanted to know more. I felt, but it's a horror film, so I think a lot of people just don't care, and they're going to go with it. My audience seemed to really enjoy the film, but I went with a friend of mine who's an author, and we had a 2-hour conversation afterwards in the theater. We went to the bar and just sat there and talked the logic. I haven't had a 2-hour conversation about a movie in forever, right after I saw it. And I mean, I guess that's a good thing, because clearly the movie affected us, and we were interested in talking about it, and we did a deep dive. But I think a lot of people that have seen a lot of horror movies might have the same issues with this movie that I do, but they're all in universe. You're not going to come away, I think, from seeing that movie and going, it sucked, because it didn't. It was really entertaining and it was really well made. I just have problems with in-universe inconsistencies, and I can't go further than that without, diminishing the experience of seeing the movie. But I would encourage everybody to go see it, because it is so interesting. You don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, no, you don't. And it's a slow burn. It's definitely it's a great example, Rob, of a movie that showcases the fact that slow burn does not equal slow, right? It's not a slow movie, but it's a slow
not at
burn.
all.
You know what I mean? And again, to me, I think the part that impressed me the most with the film, that I liked most, was how well written it is, in the sense that it's not one of these things that tells the story from 3 different characters' point of view. It tells it from like 7 characters' points of view, and it's written so well, like it all flows together so naturally. And because I remember as I picked up on what they were doing, I thought this could go off the rails, but it doesn't. And again, for me, it was just one issue with one character with their in-universe train of thought or logic.
But, yes.
But other than that, it totally worked for me. Anyway, guys.
I felt that way when I read the script too. I'm like, wait a minute. And I figured that in the finished film, they would address these issues that I had, but they did not. It was the script I read. But I think it's going to be, I look forward to the discourse about this movie for the next month online. I can't wait to read what everyone's going to say about it.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What did you think about Weapons? Did you have a chance to go out and see it? By the way, did you see it actually beat Freakier Friday on the Thursday night screenings. Like it made $5 million
it
on preview night, and Freakier Friday made $3 million. I'm not surprised though, because Weapons is the type of movie that'll get more people out on the Thursday night than Freakier Friday. Well, I think Freakier Friday will have much better numbers in its weekend, but we'll see how that all pans out. Whatever you guys thought about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? There can be only one ranks up there in the top 3, 4, or 5 greatest lines ever told in cinematic history. And that's because it comes from one of my top 10 all-time favorite movies, The Highlander, with Christopher Lambert and the great Sean Connery as Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod and Ramirez. And one of the things that made that movie great to me was the villain, Clancy Brown, as the Kurgan. And it is now official, apparently, although they're saying they still got to sign and let the ink dry, but it's now out and public. Dave Bautista is going to be joining Henry Cavill, who's the new Connor MacLeod, and Russell Crowe, who's the new Ramirez. Dave Bautista is going to be joining the new Highlander as the Kurgan. The folks over at The Hollywood Reporter write the following. Dave Bautista is in the final negotiations now to play the villain in Amazon MGM's remake of the 1980s cult classic, The Highlander. The actor will join Henry Cavill and Russell Crowe in the action fantasy, which hails from Amazon MGM's United Artists banner and is slated to get a theatrical release. Chaz Stahelski is directing the feature that is due to begin principal photography at the end of September, real soon. So it's going to be shooting and shooting locales in the UK as well as in Hong Kong. This news broke just before we started the show yesterday. But as I kind of alluded to in yesterday's show, this is actually something Rob and I have been sitting on for about a year. Like let's just say we were sitting in studio getting ready to do a show, and I literally got a text message, and I'm like, so-and-so just told me Dave Bautista is going to be Kurgan in The Highlander. And we've just kind of been sitting on that all year. So then it finally came out yesterday that he's going to be in it. Listen, I love the casting. Dave Bautista to me is one of these guys who, like John Cena, has gotten better and better and better as an actual actor. And the reason Dave Bautista has gotten better and better and better as an actor is because, unlike a lot of other people in different fields who try to come into acting, he completely dedicated himself to the craft. I remember sitting down and talking with him, which I've had the opportunity to do many times. But the first time I had a chance to sit down and talk with Dave, it was when he was doing that movie with RZA called The Man with the Iron Fists. I think that was the name of it, The Man with the Iron Fists. And I remember it was one of his first movies, and stuff like that. And I remember him being like one of the most brutally honest conversations I ever had. Because he said straight up, I don't belong here. I'm not some great thespian right now. And I'm so grateful that these people are trusting me and giving me an opportunity to come in and do what I can do, but I'm going to get better. And I remember, Rob, that conversation, because I've quoted that conversation a couple of times over the years on my show. That was one of the most honest, bearing his heart, being real, humble interviews I ever did with somebody. When he said, like, yeah, I know I'm lucky to be here and I'm going to get better. And ever since then, we have seen him grow and get better and better and better. And I'm really excited that he's going to be our Kurgan. I think he's going to do a great job. I really do. And I can't wait to see him playing alongside Henry Cavill. So anyway, Rob, now it's official. Dave Bautista is going to be the Kurgan, the villain, the Highlander. What are you thinking about it?
I think it's perfect casting. I mean, look, if any, he can bring what he's learned about acting to the role, but he also can bring what he learned about trash talking wrestling, into the role as well, because the Kurgan would taunt you, he would scare you, he's not a nice man, and also at the same time he's having a blast taking heads and taking names.
Yep.
And I think that I can only imagine how much fun it's going to be to watch Dave Bautista kick ass as the Kurgan. I mean, it puts a smile on my face just thinking about it. So I'm in. I am in on this cast. I can't wait. You know, I love Russell Crowe, and him playing Ramirez is perfect.
Oh, he's going to be a great Ramirez.
He's going to be great. I mean, the casting alone makes me want to see this movie. I'm already in.
Look, when you look back, one of the things to me that made the original Highlander so great was that chemistry between Christopher Lambert as Connor McLeod and Sean Connery as Ramirez. It was that relationship, that dynamic that they had between them. I think Russell Crowe and Henry Cavill, who have already played father and son in movies before. Of course, he was Russell Crowe was Jor-El in Man of Steel. I think they're going to have a great chemistry together on screen. And then one step beyond that, I really think Dave Bautista and Henry Cavill are going to have great on-screen chemistry. Superman and Drax together on screen, I think it's going to be magic. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Dave Bautista is now the villain, the Kurgan, in the upcoming Highlander remake, where we've got my boy Henry Cavill playing Connor McLeod of the Clan McLeod. I cannot wait for this. I'm super excited. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still have a couple of other things that we need to talk about, including the brand new Paramount. The deal's closed, and they were only a brand new company for 5 hours when they landed the hottest movie out there that all the studios were bidding for, the new Timothée Chalamet film that's going to be like an action thriller that he's doing with James Mangold again. We're going to talk about that. Also, Josh Brolin, just recently gave a little interview where it sounds like he's hinting that Thanos could be returning to the MCU. We'll talk about why that actually makes sense. And then everything is finally coming together for the Batman. We got a release date, but now we also know a date when it's going to start shooting, and it's sooner than I thought it would be. Anyway, we're going to talk about all those things and a few things more. But before we do, there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on in the world of movies and TV and entertainment that we don't have time to talk about in depth here. But we want to make sure you guys are caught up on what's going on. So take a few moments here, sit back, and enjoy this little version of the news feed. First up, the upcoming Disney Plus MCU special The Punisher, featuring John Bernthal reprising his role as Frank Castle, has officially wrapped filming and now boasts an impressive name to its credits list: Oscar-winning cinematographer Robert Elswit, also known for his work in There Will Be Blood, Punch Drunk Love, Nightcrawler, and also Inherent Vice. Ronaldo Marcus Green, alongside Bernthal, co-writes the project with Green, also directing, though precise plot details remain a secret. Early reports are suggesting it could follow Castle's attempt to escape Wilson Fisk's private prison that we find him in at the end of Daredevil Born Again, but I have a feeling it's going to be about something else. The release date for the special is yet to be announced, though the special is expected sometime in 2026. And as you guys know, Bernthal will soon be seen on screen again as the Punisher in Spider-Man Brand New Day, slated for release on July 31st, 2026. Next up, Mel Gibson's long-gestating sequel to The Passion of the Christ, titled The Resurrection of the Christ, will now be released as two separate films by Lionsgate. Part 1 is slated to hit theaters on Good Friday, March 26, 2027, and Part 2 will follow 40 days later on Ascension Day, May 6, 2027. Jim Caviezel returns in the role of Jesus. Gibson is described writing two distinct scripts for the project, including an quote-unquote acid trip version intended to explore other realms beyond the resurrection itself. The original 2004 film remains a massive commercial success, and the decision to split the follow-up into two films reflects the expansive and ambitious scope of the new material. Although really, this shouldn't be a surprise. Just recently, the Lionsgate project Michael, they split that into two films. They figured they got a hit, so why not see if they can double the box office? Next up, Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Rec and recently in Agatha All Along, I love her, will both star in and produce the upcoming biopic The Heidi Fleiss Story, portraying the notorious Hollywood madam as she faces her looming 1993 trial for running an upscale prostitution ring, and her little black book was basically a who's who of famous people. The project marks the first feature directorial debut of Leah Rachel, co-writing the screenplay with Rachel Sennott, known for Bottoms, and Travis Jackson, and is being produced in collaboration with the indie film outfit Pinky Promise. The film focuses on Fleiss's frenzied final days before her trial as she scrambles through LA attempting to use her high-level connections and an aspiring young writer named Jacqueline to avoid prosecution. Next up, Alicia Silverstone is set to return as Cher Horowitz in a new Clueless sequel series now in early development at Peacock, where she will also serve as an executive producer. They're saying the project aims to honor the beloved spirit of the original 1995 film while bringing in a fresh twist, and both she and original director-writer Amy Heckerling are involved in guiding the vision. Gossip Girl creators Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage, along with Jordan Weiss, are writing and executive producing, and producer Robert Lawrence is also attached. Now, it should be noted that this project is still very much in its infancy, but Silverstone has expressed her excitement and confidence that the revival will strike the right balance between nostalgia and innovation. You know, I caught this movie again, I think a year or two ago, and it's been 30 years since that movie came out, and Paul Rudd still doesn't look all that different. Next up, Michael Bay has officially exited the Netflix action film Fast and Loose, which was set to reunite him with Will Smith, but due to creative differences over the movie's tone, Bay has reportedly left the project. The reports say that Bay wanted to focus more on explosive action, while Will Smith preferred a stronger comedic element. The report says that the story follows Will Smith's character, who wakes up in Tijuana, Mexico with amnesia, only to discover he's been leading a double life, one as a high-level crime boss and the other as a CIA operative. Netflix is now currently seeking a new director, and the start of filming may be delayed until 2026. Next up, Billy Lord, who you might remember from American Horror Story, has officially joined the ensemble cast of the upcoming film Artificial for Amazon MGM Studios, starring Andrew Garfield as its lead. The project, written by Simon Rich, who also serves as producer alongside David Heyman, is described as a comedic drama set amid the tumultuous 2023 period at OpenAI, when CEO Sam Altman was briefly fired and then rehired. Besides Lord and Andrew Garfield, this movie's got a pretty solid cast that includes Monica Barbaro, Jason Schwartzman, and Ike Barinholtz. Plot specifics and Lord's role remain under wraps. And finally, if you like that Disney Plus show Goosebumps, I got bad news for you. Disney Plus has officially canceled the Goosebumps reboot after just 2 seasons, with its second installment, Goosebumps The Vanishing, having premiered in January of 2025. The anthology-style series, which reimagined R.L. Stine's beloved horror stories in a serialized narrative, failed to get any kind of momentum or any kind of an audience to continue. Though, Sony Pictures Television is now shopping the show around to other platforms in hopes of securing a 3rd season elsewhere. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I didn't even know it had a 2nd season. And that'll do it for today's news feed. And that is our news feed for Friday, August the 8th. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And by the way, we just recently brought back news feed. I don't know if it's worth the effort to do it. I don't know if you guys even think it's worth the screen time. So make sure you let us know in the comments if you enjoy it and find it useful or not. All right. With that all down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? According to a report in Deadline, and this is really interesting, Paramount's regime's first deal. Remember, Paramount just completed and finalized the Skydance takeover of Paramount. It's a brand new day over there. Paramount regime's first deal. Dana Goldberg and Josh Greenstein's the new heads of the studio, land hot James Mangold and Timothée Chalamet package, The High Side. They write the following. It only took 5 hours into a new studio regime for incoming Paramount Pictures co-chairs Dana Goldberg and Josh Goldstein to put some bounce into the Melrose lot. The Deadline can now reveal that they have closed on the town's hottest package, and their first bright, shiny new film package will be High Side, a reteaming of a complete unknowns James Mangold and Timothée Chalamet, which of course got a lot of Oscar attention when it came out. All right, they're describing it as this, if I can find the description of it. Here it is. Listen to this. It's described as it's heat meets hell or high water. I love the sounds of that.
Count me in.
Oh, yeah. Mixed in with one of those Bruce Springsteen songs about tragic brother relationships. Chalamet will play a former MotoGP racer haunted by a career-ending crash and a family legacy of abandonment. He's running a garage and tending to his drug addict father. When his dad dies, he's drawn back into the world of high-speed risks and extreme danger. When his estranged brother, already being pursued by the FBI, recruits him for a series of bank robberies on superbikes. Dude, This sounds to me like all sorts of sign me up. This to me sounds absolutely phenomenal, and I cannot wait to check this thing out. First of all, it's James Mangold, who is a brilliant director. And we can go down the laundry list of all the amazing films he's made. Bit of a hiccup with the last Indiana Jones film, absolutely. But otherwise, I mean, this dude's impeccable. And Timothée Chalamet, I've been saying for the longest time, he is going to be the next Daniel Day-Lewis. He's not there yet. I'm not saying he is it now, but I've said for a long time, I think he's going to be the next Daniel Day-Lewis, and there are going to be several Oscars on his mantle when it's all said and done. Hell or High Water meets Heat on a motorbike heist action thriller with James Mangold directing. Yeah, I'm all about this. Anyway, Rob, you hear about this. What's standing out to you?
What's not to love? I mean, look, I love me some crime thrillers. I love high octane crime thrillers. You know, whether it's anything from Point Break to Heat, I'll watch this. This just sounds like catnip to me. And it's Mangold lives in that wheelhouse too. He's done a lot of films of that ilk that I'm excited to see this. And I'm sure Timothée Chalamet has been wanting to do something like this for a long time. He can really, you know, an action hero badass. I mean, he's one thing when he's leading the Fremen of Arrakis, but I mean, he's going to be on the back of a motorcycle doing insane motorcycle things. So what's not to love? I'm in.
What do you think about, like, with this being like the first deal that Paramount, because like the article pointed out, this has been a project that a lot of studios and streamers were looking at and circling and wanted to get their hands on. How significant do you think it is for Paramount as their first kind of official action as this newly put together company that they're the ones to land that? How big of a deal is that?
I think it is a big deal in the sense that Paramount needs to come out swinging going, okay, industry, the merger is done. Skydance has taken over. You know, David Ellison has made good on all of his promises. So what are we going to do? How are we going to turn Paramount into, what's the future look like there? And I think by going in and getting one hot package like this with an A-list director and a super hot actor, I mean, you can't get hotter than Timothée Chalamet is right now. You're making a statement. It's the kind of statement that Paramount is in the business of making big, grand entertainments, and they're coming out firing. I think this was a smart move because no one's going to look at this and say anything other than that's a winner. You know, it's not some weird, questionable art film. They are making an A-list, in your face, rousing, rocking entertainment, and I think that was what they should have done. I think it's a great move.
And at the same time, here's the thing. When you look at the films James Mangold does, this is not going to be, nor I think is it going to be him trying to make this isn't going to be a $220 million movie.
No.
I think this is probably going to be like a $110 million movie, $105 million movie. It's going to be a movie that's going to need like 350 to break even and become profitable for the studio. You know they're going to put it in that kind of a realm. Now, my big question is, it sounds like there's two main characters, right? So you got Timothée Chalamet is the main lead, and the secondary lead is the one who plays his brother. Who are they going to get to play alongside Timothée Chalamet? And that's going to be interesting.
I mean, yeah, and you look at I look at movies that Mangold just in his past. So he just did the Dylan movie in Indiana Jones, but he's done Ford v Ferrari, Logan, Night and Day, the Tom Cruise movie, 310 to Yuma, Identity, and he did Copland. So you're going to have an action-oriented character piece. And I think Heat and Hell and High Water is those two things. You've got a great character dynamic, and hard-hitting crime thriller things. And it's not like I thought Night and Day got a little over the top, but it showed that he could he could manage his action scenes, and he's always been great with character. I mean, Copland is one of the great unsung Sylvester Stallone movies. If you're a real Stallone fan, you think back to Copland, he really changed his image with that.
Oh, it's one of his best performances in his whole career.
Delivered a terrific performance. And Mangold has always been great. I mean, he gave us The Wolverine and Logan, one of the great superhero films of all time, but also what made Logan work was all the characterization. If you took any superheroics out of that movie, it would still be great.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's really good at, is combining action and character. So it doesn't surprise me that I'll bet the script is great.
Oh, so, yeah, I have no doubt. If they're already like lining up to get this thing, I'm sure it's awesome. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think of the sounds of this? We got James Mangold and Timothée Chalamet teaming up again. The last time they did that last year, ended up with a ton of Oscar nominations. I expect this to be no less fantastic. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down in the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? The great thing, or in my case, sometimes a real frustrating thing about big comic book movies, particularly the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is that you could actually call the Marvel Cinematic Universe the Marvel Fake Death Cinematic Universe, because nobody's ever really dead, which really takes away a lot of consequences. Case in point, I present to you Thanos, who they kill and then bring back in the same movie. And now Josh Brolin himself is kind of hinting at the idea that they may be bringing Thanos back. And this may surprise you when I tell you, I think it would make total sense for them to do it. Now, what did Josh Brolin say about a Thanos Avengers Doomsday Return? Said this: speaking during a recent appearance on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, Josh Brolin, who played Thanos throughout the MCU, was asked if he would ever come back if the Russo brothers asked him to. While some might have expected him to say no, as a lot of these MCU actors do, remember Robert Downey Jr. kept saying no, and this is what generally people say. It's like, oh no, I love my time, but it's time for me to look to the next chapter. He answered differently. He said, I've said it, Deadpool 2, I'm glad it was one experience. The Thanos thing, if they called me in London right now and said, let's do this, I'd be like, I'll be there tomorrow, said Brolin. Of course, they're going to come up with something really fun. And I mean, who knows? Who knows? That was a 10-year building kind of thing. That was its own kind of book-ended deal. And I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm sure it's going to be interesting. All right. Here's the reason I think everything Josh Brolin just said makes absolute sense, and why I 100%, Rob, believe that we are going to see Josh Brolin and Thanos back again. And it's all because of one panel in a comic book. All because of one single panel. And it's this one. In Secret Wars, there is this jaw-dropping, breathtaking moment in the comic where Dr. Doom, here in white, or God Emperor Doom, Thanos comes face to face with them. And it's just basically doing the Thanos thing. I'm the baddest guy in the prison cell. I'm the man. To which, and I'm paraphrasing here, to which Dr. Doom says, I'm the only one powerful enough to wield the Infinity Stones. I'm the Mad Titan. To which Dr. Doom says, oh, okay, yeah. You got the Infinity Stones on you right now? Like Thanos is like, I don't need them. At which point, Dr. Doom, with one punch, punches right into Thanos's midsection and rips out his spine and his skull as the rest of his body just falls to the ground in one shot. It is basically a hyped up, souped up, steroided up moment of we have a Hulk and Hulk coming out and fighting Thanos and Thanos beating down Hulk. It's like, oh my God. It's like in the comics, Rob, they wanted a moment. It's like, so far it's all been didactic. So far it's all been exposition. Doom's really powerful. Let's show everybody. And what better way than to put the Mad Titan in front of him and literally in one shot just rip out his spine. I have no insider information, okay? Nobody's told me anything. This is just me as a fan, speculating as a fan, okay? But I have zero doubt that this shot, this scene, this frame will 100% not be a moment in Doomsday, although, Rob, that's possible too. Because remember, in the MCU, they have often taken iconic moments from one story run, but dropped it into a different context in the MCU. So it is possible that this shot could indeed happen in Doomsday rather than Secret Wars. It's probably Secret Wars. But Rob, I have zero doubt that Josh Brolin will be back as Thanos, and it will at the latest be in Secret Wars, because we are going to get that shot, and you need to have him there to do that shot. Anyway, Rob, you're hearing Josh Brolin. Do you think he is coyly hinting to everybody, yeah, you can expect me back? Or is he not coming back? And he's like legitimately just saying, theoretically speaking, were the Russo brothers ever to ask me to come back, I would do it. Like, I think this is him kind of doing it with a wink and a nod, but how do you interpret it? And what do you think the chances are?
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I mean, there is no, first of all, that panel that you just put up, can you imagine the audience response seeing that in a theater? I mean, come on. And I'm sure that they'll make more of a meal of the scene, because you're dealing with the multiverse. You know, there's more Thani spread out across the we only dealt with one. And there's no better way, I mean, from a visual standpoint and just an audience standpoint, in confronting this Thanos and taking him out that way, you immediately plant a flag going, yeah, Thanos was the big bad for 23 movies. Look who's here now to, you know, who's your God Emperor today? You know, and that's, it works on many different levels. You know, it establishes Doom as a cosmic threat. It establishes Doom as, he doesn't care. Like, even Thanos had morality and ethics. I'm only going to kill half your population. You know, the other half, and
I'm doing it for a good reason.
Yeah,
he would say,
for a cause. You know, I'm bringing balance to the universe. But I look, now that you've put this idea, because, you know, I recently reread the whole Secret Wars, both the omnibuses, and, you know, I'm now convinced, you've convinced me, that we're going to see, if it's not this exact scene, it's going to be something similar. But I can't imagine punching through and like pull. It's going to be great. I just want to see that on screen. However, John, I will say one thing. I thought for sure in Avengers Age of Ultron, that one panel from Avengers 22, when the Avengers finally fight their way into Ultron's stronghold, and Thor was sitting there beaten and battered with the rest of the Avengers, and Thor said, Ultron, we would have words with thee. And I thought for sure that was going to be in the movie. I thought for sure. And it wasn't. That's my only reservation.
Now, I just want to respond to something quickly here. That's one of our live viewers in the live chat, just to bust your balls a little bit. Mac the Mad in the live chat saying, well, that's no big deal. Like, Thor easily decapitated him. Thor was able to decapitate Thanos, number one, after he was basically wrecked because he destroyed the Infinity Stones, which destroyed half of his body. He was now a limping, basically, for Thanos, a fragile little version of himself. Oh, and I don't know, Captain Marvel already came flying in and shot him down, and Ruffalo and the Hulk bust, and they were all in there beating on him and holding him in place. And sure, yeah, Thor was able to take his head off then, but that's a very specific set of circumstances I was in. I think to have, because, you know, Rob, we've talked for a while about Doomsday, that Doctor Doom is going to need a moment like, not the exact moment, but a moment like that moment Thanos had in Infinity War, where they need to immediately imprint him on the audience. What's the best way to do that? Have him fight Hulk and have him beat Hulk. So we've thought and speculated a lot about, well, who could that be for Doom? And I mean, really, the answer seems obvious. But that would mean, though, and I want to ask your odds on this. That would mean having that moment happen in Doomsday, just like Thanos' moment with Hulk happened in the first movie. It happened in Infinity War. What do you think the chances are that the Doom Thanos moment, let's assume it's going to happen, because it might not, but just for the sake of the discussion, we're going to assume it is, just for the moment, okay? Let's assume for a minute that moment with Thanos getting killed by Dr. Doom happens. What are the chances you think that happens in Doomsday rather than Secret Wars? What would you put the odds on that at?
I think that's the way you open Secret Wars. You know, you've created, because if you follow the comics, he's going to collapse the universe and create Battle World, you know, and there might only be there might be a Thanos on Battle World or whatever he's done. And it would be like, how do you need a banger? Endgame's opening with the dusting of Hawkeye's family is such a great way to open that movie. And if you leave off Doomsday, where he actually does collapse the multiverse or whatever, leaving us with, oh my God, reality's gone. Where's it going to go? I think that's a great opener for Secret Wars. You know, like you start making a Thanos scene, whether he has the Infinity Stones or not. The audience is like, oh my God, Thanos is back. And then you have Dr. Doom, God Emperor Doom now. You know, he's like Gandalf the White come back from after defeating the Balrog. You know, and he comes out of the shadows and Thanos doesn't know who he is. Who are you? You know, I'm Doom. And comes out and wrecks shop and does that panel. I mean, that's the opening of a movie. I think it's probably Secret Wars. Because in Doomsday, it's got to be his story, and he's got to be gathering his power, and there's got to be all this machinations. He's not God Emperor Doom yet. And I think he can only do that. He can only do that to Thanos when he's attained that power.
The only reason I agree that I think the likelihood is that it happens in Secret Wars.
Yeah.
The one reason I would give some credence to the idea of it happening in Doomsday is, again, the point of the Thanos Hulk moment was to imprint this Thanos. Now, we had seen glimpses of Thanos, but we hadn't really seen Thanos in the MCU up until really that point. Right? We had these moments, and, you know, in the Guardians movie, he's sitting in his chair talking to Ronan the Accuser. Yeah, that's all fine. But when they really introduced him, they immediately made an impact. He kills Loki, he takes out Thor, and he beats Hulk. And that starts everything, so we have that. So the only bit of logic that I have that they might do it in Doomsday is, well, if you're introducing him in Doomsday, really, you want to make that impression quickly, so that that impression is now made as you're telling the story moving forward. Again, I'm with you. I actually think the higher chances, the smart money, as you would say, is probably on Secret Wars. But because of that one thing, because it's an impression-making moment,
I agree.
They might put it in Doomsday.
But we don't know. The one thing is other than the glimpse we might have already had of him, we don't know who Doom is in the MCU at all. Whereas Thanos,
that's true.
You know, we don't even know. I would imagine... I wouldn't surprise me if Doomsday opens in a flashback 50 years ago or 40 years ago or something, because we don't know. I think the first thing they have to do is explain, why does Doom look just like Tony Stark? Because that's the big question going into it. How are you going to convince an audience that the same guy who played Iron Man in the MCU is also Dr. Doom? They have to surmount that first.
I disagree. I don't think they have to do that first. I think they have to acknowledge the issue first and then let it be a mystery if they wanted to, that they find out the answers to it later or something like that.
I think they have, but what I mean is overall, they've got to explain the character of Doom first, because if he were to come out and he's already God Emperor Doom anywhere in Doomsday, I think that it's too much unless it happens at the end of the movie, because we have to meet him. We have to understand him. We have to watch the machinations of his plot unfold. And so we've got to Doomsday has a lot of heavy lifting to do to get to Secret Wars. And so I think that it's probably, I mean, it might happen. Maybe he turns into God Emperor and that's when he's able to collapse the universes, and that's when he takes out Thanos or whatever. But I think Doomsday has a lot of work to do before we get to that point. That's not saying it can't do it in the whole movie, because maybe it does.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? Josh Brolin obviously saying the door is open for me to come back. And if you know the story of Secret Wars, it's like one of the most iconic moments in that entire story run. I just don't see how Marvel does this story of Doomsday into Secret Wars without that moment, and what an impression it would make. Or maybe you think differently about it. Listen, guys, whatever your thoughts are on this, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, the Batman has been kind of, well, where the hell is he? Where is the Batman lately? Because we had the Batman, we were told we were going to get a sequel in years past, and nothing. And then just recently, finally, like light at the end of the tunnel, we hear word that Matt Reeves has completed the script. Then James Gunn, the head of the studio, says it's great. And you know, of course, James Gunn, we're not going to greenlight a movie until we got a great script. He said it's great. Well, now, according to Variety, not only do they have their script, they are full-fledged moving forward and already have a date to start shooting the movie. This comes to us from Variety, who writes the following. Good news for fans of Robert Pattinson's The Dark Knight. In Warner Brothers Discovery's recent letter to shareholders, the company announced that Matt Reeves' long-awaited The Batman 2 will finally begin filming in spring. That's the first part of 2026 for an October of 2027 theatrical release, which means it's just a little over 2 years before we actually get it in theaters. Pattinson, who's gone from filming, get this, how's this for a streak, Rob? Robert Pattinson, who's gone from filming Christopher Nolan's Odyssey to Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 3, and now he's going back in to play the Batman. So that's not a bad streak if you're Robert Pattinson.
No.
Not bad at all. They just goes on to say a little bit. Warner Brothers Discovery shareholder letter celebrated the recent success of James Gunn's Superman, which kicked off the new DC universe across film and television. The tentpole has earned it's now over $550 million. And counting worldwide. The company wrote DC Studios' universe of characters represents not only one of Warner Brothers Discovery's most valuable pieces of intellectual property, but one of its most valuable assets in entertainment. All right. I think this is significant that they are now coming up, because when you start speaking to shareholders, you're now talking to the people who actually matter to you if you're a corporation, right? Because when the shareholders are unhappy, nobody's going to be happy. What's the old out of date term, but the old term is if the wife and mom in the house isn't happy, nobody in the house is happy. It's the sort of thing, right? And that's the thing with these corporations with their shareholders. If the shareholders are unhappy, and so if they're now taking the step of writing to their actual shareholders, say, we are starting to shoot this at this time, and this is going to be our release date. That's a double Stampsies, no takebacks kind of thing. That's you. Now you got to follow through on that. And if they're saying that now, then my only assumption here, Rob, can be that James Gunn is at the point that he is fully satisfied with the script. They are ready to go. They're ready to start pulling the thing in. To whatever. By the way, just going to acknowledge to our audience that Rob's stream is breaking up, but at least his audio is working. So we're good on that. Anyway, Rob, you hear about this. How significant is this? How big of a deal is this for them? What's your take on it?
I should do my Max Headroom. Look, I think this is fantastic. I think this is fantastic. You know, obviously it's been a long time coming. I really liked The Batman. You know, I really thought The Batman was a terrific film. I like that it leaned more into police procedural and less into the superheroics necessarily, even though we had a great Penguin and a great Catwoman introduced. Again, I really like Reeves is a very smart, very classy filmmaker. And I really enjoyed what he did. And after coming off the triumph of the Penguin TV series, that world that we've learned and seen, you know, the Penguin was like watching really 4 movies in a way. And so we've really had time to sit with this iteration of Gotham. And I'm really excited to see where it's going to go. And obviously, with this amount of time, I expect the script is pretty brilliant too. So the fact that they've come out blazing and they're like, it starts filming in the spring, we're on the downside of 2025. So they're probably ramping up pre-production. The spring could mean they start shooting as early as March. And that's pretty exciting. And it's a commitment from the studio. They planted a flag. They said giving it a release date already, they've got to be pretty confident in this movie. So that alone makes me excited about it.
Now, when you look at the numbers, as I'll just bring them up here in just a moment, the numbers for that first The Batman movie were really impressive. $772 million worldwide. Trying to be, they had already moved past the Christopher Nolan thing, but there were still a lot of people sore that, Ben Affleck wasn't continuing as Batman. By the way, Ben Affleck is my all-time favorite Batman. I'm not saying his movies were better than the Dark Knight movies. That's not what I'm saying. But you guys know how I feel about it. I just feel like Ben Affleck and Zack Snyder understood the character of Batman maybe better than any other filmmaking duo I've seen try to take a swing at it so far. But that being said, so with them coming and doing this, a much darker kind of film, this was not in any way, shape, or form ever once marketed as bring the family. Like, it was not a 4-quadrant movie. This was a very dark, gritty, intense, some people feel too intense, too dark, too gritty, whatever, Batman. And it made $772 million. Rob, as you're looking at the success that this thing had, can the sequel enjoy that kind of success? Can it go past it? Will it suffer from the fact that the genre as a whole has kind of been, underperforming as far as delivering the quality? Although it does seem to be turning around lately. But I don't know. What do you think? How do you think this Batman 2 can do? Will audiences rush out to see it?
I think they will, because it's not just Batman, it's also the Penguin. And, we've had the time. We've had that time. The one thing that used to happen, the reason that they committed, say, $100 million to make Terminator 2 the first $100 million movie, was Terminator 1. It did well theatrically, but on cable and video, and it found a whole new audience, a global audience, and they knew that making a sequel was a great investment. I think with this film, with the Batman, I think it's only gained in stature. And then the fact they followed it up with a really critically acclaimed, Emmy-nominated TV series only speaks to the fact that the audience for this is expecting something, and they're expecting something great. No one's going, this movie's going to suck. They know that what they're getting is something where at least the bar is very high, and you're getting something that the audience, Matt Reeves is going to deliver something that the audience, he respects his audience, and he's going to give them something smart, thoughtful, and kick-ass. And very much worthwhile. And I think that's what you want from a filmmaker. And I think he knows that. That's why he took a long time. I would assume that's why he took a long time on the script, because he wanted to get this thing absolutely right.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? We now have a start production date. They have galvanized, even though we heard it was going to be October 2027 for a while. They've galvanized that now. Are you excited for this film? Have they waited a little bit too long? Have you lost some of your enthusiasm? I personally can't wait for it. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we will bid good day to Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, thanks again for being here, man. Great job as always.
I'm trying to do my max headroom, but it was great.
It's working well.
Great to see everybody. A great week, man. A lot of great stuff happened this week, and everybody go see Weapons. I can't wait to hear what you all have to say.
Awesome, man. And I'll probably talk to you over the weekend, but I will see you. Actually, I might even see you this week. I might drive. The van shows up in a few hours. I might drive it out to Redlands.
Well, I'm going to Vegas on Sunday just for the day to speak on the Star Trek panel. The big Star Trek convention. Yeah.
Maybe I need an excuse to drive out. Maybe I need an excuse to drive out to Vegas.
There you go, dude. I'll come back with you. Go take the van.
All right, dude. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Meyer Burnett for your viewing pleasure. Sorry about that his stream got a little janky there, but hey, at least his audio still worked fine. Okay, guys, it's now time for us to move on to your comments and questions. Now, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, on some Fridays, I give Jonathan some Fridays off here, and it makes it a little more difficult for me to pull in questions from the tip links, but it's easier for me to pull it in from the super chat. So the super chats are, of course, now open. And now, again, I only address on the show every day questions that come in that we deem appropriate to be asked. So we do reserve the right not to answer any question that we deem inappropriate, but we do thank everybody for sending them in nonetheless. For example, there's one or two I'm not going to be able to read out because they're kind of spoilery for the weapons, but we'll get through as many as we can here. All right, let's kick things off, shall we? And we are going to start with Scotty Doesn't Know, who writes, one way I can see Mephisto showing up again is in Daredevil Born Again Season 2. That's possible. He could tempt Matt to bring Foggy back, and it would be cool to see Matt interact with the devil. That dialogue would be insane. I 100% agree with you. Here's the one problem, is I don't think we're going to see them bring the supernatural into Daredevil. Now, I get it. I can already hear a lot of people going, but John, in the comics, well, yeah, I know, but the impression they've really given is the fact that they're not going to bring that sort of thing. Daredevil, I think, is going to remain very, very grounded in the series, I think. So what you're suggesting sounds really good. I think that sounds really good. But I don't think they're going to do it. But who knows? You never know. We'll find out. All right, next up. Amin writes, yesterday's episode with Rob was one of the best. I think we need a weekly segment where you guys share some crazy stories from being in the industry. Yeah, you know what? Listen, to be honest, that's an issue I struggle with a lot sometimes because, and one of the reasons why I've thought about launching a dedicated, just straight up podcast, here's what I'm talking about. Going all the way back to AMC and even the movie blog, when I was doing the movie blog audio edition, there are a number of podcasts. You can break podcasts into one of two real categories. One is topic focused, and moving on, or two, conversation focused. Now, on our shows, even when we're talking about topics, we tend to do them in conversationally kind of ways. But we don't allow ourselves to go off on tangents. We don't allow ourselves very often to just do storytelling and tell stories and share anecdotes and things like that. But that's always fun when we get to do that. So I'm always struggling between finding that balance between the topic presentation versus more casual conversation. And there's strengths to both. So yeah, I've always kind of struggled with where to have that line and how to balance it out. And I'm always playing around with it, and it's something I'll continue to do. All right. Thanks, Amin. Next up, we've got Movies Are Life writes, hey, John and Rob. Obviously, Rob doesn't stick around for the questions part of the show. Saw Weapons last night, and that was a movie is all I can say. It kept me invested, and it was creepy as hell. Have a great day. Yeah, listen. Again, I do think, for those of you who saw the movie, you'll know what we're talking about. I do think there is one character that has some logic issues as far as their motivations on doing things. But overall, I thought it was a great movie. Like, it was, as a horror, it was creepy as hell. As a movie, it was a really rock solidly well-told story that I had a lot of fun with. All right. Next up, we've got Atomic Brunette, who writes, just wanted to say thank you, John. Oh, thank you for that. You helped me realize it's never too late to follow your dreams. And now I'm working in film/TV distribution. That's awesome. I listen to the show at work every day. Love you guys. Oh, thank you so much for that. I love hearing that. I love hearing people not just talk about their dreams, but pursuing their dreams. But listen, the thing that they just said about it's never too late. I didn't go and start studying law until I was in my 30s. Like, I had worked in web development, and I had done like a number of things and all that kind of stuff before that, and I was working in other things. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s, I said, you know what, I want to study law. So I went and I got into law. And it wasn't until well after that that I got the movie blog going. Well, got it really going. And like, so what I'm doing now, like I was well into my mid 30s and whatever. And even then I made some major career change decisions in my 40s, like even into my late 40s. The point is, and guess what? I've got new ideas and new plans for my future too. It is never too late. It is never too late to start yourself off in a new adventure if it's something that you want to pursue. So I'm glad you did that, Atomic Brunette. Thanks for sharing that. All right. Next up, we've got 911 Gatman writes, what storyline do you want the most to be fleshed out in the new Batman 2 and why? So here's the thing, 911, my kind of personal philosophy as a movie fan when it comes to that sort of stuff, and I guess I can take the headphones off now. My sort of philosophy on that, you can see the headphone line in your hair. My kind of philosophy as a movie fan when it comes to that sort of stuff about what do I want to see in the next movie? What storyline do I want them to address in the next movie? What villain do I want them to have in the next movie? My sort of attitude is, I don't care. I've kind of adopted the attitude over the years that I just want to sit back and allow you, in this case, Matt Reeves, to serve up whatever you want. It's like when you're going to eat at a restaurant with a world great chef and they say, well, what do you want him to make? I want him to make whatever he wants to make. Like, hey, great chef, you make whatever you want to make and I'll just sit back and enjoy whatever you bring. If you feel like making a great beef Wellington, I don't want to tell you to make lasagna, even though I love lasagna. But I mean, if that's what you feel inspired to do right now, then I'm going to have your beef Wellington. You know what I'm saying? And so that's kind of my attitude with these movies. It's a great question, but my attitude with these movies is I just want to see whatever Matt Reeves is cooking up. Whatever he feels like putting together on a dish, that's what I want him to deliver. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Okay, next up, we've got one from Jerome who writes, in Batman v Superman, could Superman have saved everyone in that Senate explosion with his super speed similar to Quicksilver in X-Men Apocalypse? I don't think so. Not the way they wrote Superman in Man of Steel or in the DCEU. He didn't have that kind of speed. Like, could he have gotten out of the Senate while it was exploding? Yes, this Superman could have done that. Could he have gotten out and grabbed a couple of people on his way out? Yes, I think he could have done that. But could this Superman have literally stopped time and made 18 trips, 40 trips, 50 trips in and out of the structure to save everybody? I don't think this iteration of Superman could do that. Also, here's the thing that a lot of people never talk about when it comes to scenes like this. Let's say Flash, like, does one of those things, right? Like, we're at the speed of light, practically the speed of light, rushes in, grabs a little girl, and pulls her outside. Here's what would happen. That would kill the little girl. Because while maybe Flash's internal organs are all synced with the Speed Force, if you go from suddenly, they talk about G-forces. A pilot's in a plane, and once he starts going to a certain speed, they start suffering, just Top Gun Maverick, right? Your body starts being subjected to certain types of G-forces. And at some point, it's going to just make you completely black out. But you go much further than that, because what's happening, like, let's say this is your body, and this is your lungs. If somebody suddenly grabs you outside of your body and like pulls you so fast this way, your lungs didn't move with you that fast. Your lungs are going to go splat against your spine, your heart, your liver, your blood, everything. Your brain is going to get smashed against the back of your skull. All those people that Quicksilver and like Flash saved that way, technically in the real world, that would kill them. Technically in the real world, that would kill them. Anyway, no, Jerome, I don't think that the Superman that we have in the that we had in the DCU was written in such a way to be able to do all that. Anyway, that's just my opinion, though. All right, thanks for that, Jerome. Next up, we've got Jerome again, who writes, have you heard the song My Idol and what it sounds like from the K-pop Demon Hunter soundtrack since you didn't watch the whole film? Yep. Yeah, I did. I actually, because people kept, like, for the amount of the movie that I watched, one of the things that I thought was great in it was the music. It's not necessarily my kind of music, but it was really good. Dun, 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 right? Like, it was actually, that's the one part about it that I thought, that's really, they did a really good job putting music together for this thing. So last week when we were doing the story about the fact that like every single song from K-pop Demon Hunters was the topping the charts of the music charts, I went and watched all the music videos and it stays true. It's very good music. They actually put together a great soundtrack in there. All right. Next up, Amin writes, I'm not really a horror guy. How scary is Weapons? Well, it's not like every 5 seconds there's this grotesque monster ripping off people's faces. It's not like that. It's more tension. Here's what I said in my out of the theater reaction, Amin. I mentioned that it's great if you're a horror fan, but I think this is a horror movie that even non-horror fans can very easily, I can recommend this to. So I think you'll have a good time if you go back and check it out. All right. Next up, Johnny Weiner writes, have you heard AMC are re-releasing Batman and Batman Returns back-to-back in Dolby? I'm going with my Bat Signal popcorn bucket. It's my first time in theaters watching Returns. All is left, Batman and Robin. I have not heard that. I gotta wonder though, is there a lot of people that want to go and watch the original Batman and Batman Returns? You know what though? I probably will. Those of you who've watched the channel for a long time, you know that original Batman movie has a very special place in my heart, and I won't go into the story why. Those of you who watch, you know. So yeah, I'll probably go do that. Thanks for putting that on my radar, Johnny. I never even knew that. Never knew that. All right. Next up, we've got Jerome again, who writes, do you think the upcoming Avengers movies will have the female heroes working together moments like that one moment in Endgame? Probably not, because it's already been done. Like, they did it in Endgame because it was a great visual moment. Like, listen, for all the weak little insecure baby men out there who got all upset that they did that because they're completely insecure and pathetic and not real men. It was cool because they had never done it. And in the midst of this huge battle where they were orchestrating all these great little moments to happen in this big battle, they thought, wouldn't it be cool if at like one moment, like all the female heroes find themselves at the same spot and launch a big assault. And listen, the 6-7 times I saw the movie in theater, every time that happened, it wasn't as big as, On Your Left, big roar, but it was one of the bigger roars of the movie. But here's the thing. It's been done now. It's been done. So no, unless there's a really good narrative story thing for them to do it, I don't think they will. Again, unless there's a really powerful narrative reason for them to do it, I don't think they will because it's already been done. All right. Next up, Alex M. tips in $20. Thank you, Alex. And Alex writes, what did you think about the POV/chapters they did for characters? I'm assuming you're talking about Weapons. I love how it all connected eventually. And which point of view did you enjoy the most? Well, I can't go into any spoilers here, but I did mention in the review that that's kind of how this movie tells its story, right? And we've seen other movies that do it that way, where they tell it from one character's point of view, then they tell it from another character's point of view. And as they start telling it from multiple characters' points of views, it starts putting the whole picture together. And I thought that was the biggest strength of the movie. I thought that was the absolute biggest strength of the movie. Now, I cannot say who my favorite character's point of view was, because then I'd be spoiling it for the audience, then knowing, oh, that character is going to get their own point of view told. So I don't want to spoil that for the audience. So for obvious reasons, Alex, I can't answer that part of the question. But again, overall, I just thought that was the absolute strongest part of the movie. All right, next up. Thanks for that, Alex. And thanks for tipping so generously, man. I appreciate that, man. William L writes, I went to a showing of the Eminem Stan documentary, and that disclaimer, showing will start after 25 to 30 minutes of ads, was displayed, and I missed the first half hour because it started right away. This sucks. I would absolutely complain. Like, I like the fact that they now put that disclaimer. Showtime is whatever o'clock, but the movie starts 25 to 30 minutes after the advertised showtime. I like that they're doing that. It's not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. But if they are going to do a movie where they're not going to show that 25 to 30 minutes of ads, they need to not tell you that there will be 25 to 30 minutes of ads, because now you just missed a third of the movie. I would absolutely go to the manager, be polite, be nice, be very civil, and just speak to the manager, hey, listen, I came to see this movie, and it says here on my ticket, this is my phone. I'll use my phone. Said here on my ticket that, hey, it says 25 to 30 minutes after the showtime. And so I came 25 minutes after showtime, and it turns out I missed like 20 minutes of the movie. I missed because your app told me to come later, and see what they can do to make it right with you. At least that's what I would do. All right. Next up, we got Joseph, SFL writes, I feel that pitch meeting guy had Superman and F4 videos banked and was relaxing when he saw War of the Worlds and went, oh crap, back to work. Yeah, listen, I'm a big fan. Granted, after many years, sometimes it starts to feel a little repetitive, but I don't care. I still love pitch meeting. I love those videos. And they just did a great one for War of the Worlds. And if all I'm going to say is, if you have not checked it out yet, make sure you do, because it's really, really fun. Thanks for sharing that, Joseph. All right, next up, we've got Frank Sanders writes, Dexter Resurrection is great. Any thoughts? I still have not started watching it yet. And I'm really excited. Listen, I gave up on Dexter. I gave up on it with that, whatever, New Blood. I gave up on it. I thought New Blood was terrible. I gave up on it. And I wasn't even going to watch Original Sin, but then a bunch of people started telling me, a bunch of you guys started telling me, John, you should check out Dexter Original Sin. It's actually surprisingly good. So I watched it and loved it. It wasn't as good as the original Dexter series, but it was really, really good. I had a great time watching it. And so now I'm completely down for this new Dexter series. I just haven't gotten around to start watching it yet. Now, I will soon, and I know I've been saying that for a couple of weeks now, but I will soon, I promise, but I haven't gotten around to checking it out just yet. All right. Next up, we've got one from Daniel Casimir, who sends in a $20 tip. Thank you, Daniel. And Daniel writes, hey, John, just read Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers Secret Wars, and I was shocked how spectacular it was. Have you read the source material? Yep. And what's your current guess as to how the Doom/Tony Stark will work in the MCU? All right. So here's the thing, Daniel, I say this every time a new comic book movie is coming out that is even suggested to be based on a certain storyline. Like Age of Ultron, X-Men Days of Future Past, Civil War, all those types of things. They are never exactly like the comic book version. Never. Civil War was completely different. I mean, there were definitely thematic similarities, but Civil War was definitely not a beat-by-beat telling of the comic book story of Civil War. X-Men Days of Future Past was absolutely not a beat-by-beat retelling of X-Men Days of Future Past from the comics. They take themes They take moments, but they still tell their own story, right? For the most part in the MCU. So my warning to a lot of people is, especially people like you who have read the Secret Wars iteration, don't expect it to be the exact story. Just don't expect that. Expect there to be some key moments. Expect there to be some themes that are brought in. But other than that, go in expecting an original movie that'll have some very familiar elements, but will not just be the blatant story of Secret Wars, just like it was in the comics, because Marvel's never done that. They've never done it. And by the way, that's fine, because Civil War is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. X-Men Days of Future Past, I contend, is a top 10 greatest comic book movie ever made. So it's fine that they take liberties. It is. I'm just saying, make sure you go in with that understanding and that expectation of knowing, hey, this isn't going to be just like the comic book, because odds are it really won't be. Again, some very familiar things, some very familiar tones, some very familiar themes, some very familiar characters, some very familiar moments, but overall they're going to do their own thing. And as far as the Doctor Doom thing goes, I think Doctor Doom is going to be, I think Tony is going to be a variant of Doctor Doom. Notice that I'm not saying I think Doctor Doom is a Tony variant. I think Tony is a variant of Victor Von Doom. My guess is, and I could be totally wrong, this is just me grasping at straws, my guess is, and has been, that like a lot of multiverses, different decisions and choices create different branches, right? My guess is Tony Stark's like great-great-grandparents in Marvel 616, the regular Marvel universe, Tony's great-great-grandparents came over from Europe and started life in America like most families did. And they changed their name, like a lot of families have, to be more of a North American sounding name. So my guess is the Starks' originally family name was the Von Dooms. And that in whatever reality this Robert Downey Jr. comes from, in that reality, Tony's great-great-grandparents never left Latveria. They stayed there, never changed their name from Von Doom to Stark. And ultimately, Victor Von Doom was born with all the genius and all that kind of stuff of his other variants. Again, I don't know that that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that's my guess. That's just my guess right now, because you did ask for my guess. All right. Let's see here. Next up, Sci-Fi Extremist says, think Doomsday runtime has to be a minimum of 2 hours and 30 minutes. No, guys, that's absolute bullshit. There is no such thing in any movie of an absolute minimum runtime required. Nonsense. Nonsense, my brother. Absolute nonsense. But John, they got to set up this and they got to set up that. Yeah. And if you're a good storyteller, you can do that in 2.5 hours. If you're a good storyteller, you can do it in 3 hours. If you're a good storyteller, you can do it in 2 hours. I keep reminding everybody, the original Star Wars movie, right? If they were trying to do that today, everybody would say, you can't possibly do a Star Wars movie without making it 3 hours or without having 3 other movies to set up, because you got to introduce Luke, you got to introduce Han, you got to introduce Ben, you got to introduce R2 and 3PO, you got to introduce Princess Leia, you got to introduce Darth Vader. Hell, people don't even, you got to introduce the whole universe. People don't know about how this was an old republic and then it's been taken over by an empire and an evil emperor, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? They did all of it in 2 hours. 2 hours. They did that whole movie and did all of that in 2 hours. Why? Because at the time, George Lucas was an amazing storyteller. So what I would say, Sci-Fi Extremist, is no, it doesn't need to be 2.5 hours. If you need it to be 2.5 hours, maybe you're not as good of a storyteller as you think. Now, that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be 2.5 hours. If the Russo brothers are making their movie and it's like the perfect runtime for this with all that we're doing, the real sweet spot is 2.5 hours, then by all means, make it 2.5 hours. If the real sweet spot is 2 hours, make it 2 hours. If the real sweet spot is 2 hours and 50 minutes, then make it 2 hours and 15 minutes. But this idea that well, there is a maximum because moviegoers just won't sit through it if it's too long. But this idea about there's a minimum length that needs to be, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Some of the greatest, most complex universe setup movies of all time have been 2 hours or less. So no, I do not believe it at minimum needs to be 2.5 hours. That's just kind of my take on it at any rate. All right. Let's see here. Next up, we got the Batman. Just sends in a super chat badge to be supportive. And again, the Batman sends in another super chat badge to be supportive. Thank you, the Batman. That's very kind of you. I know the Batman gets very excited in our live chats when we are talking about the Batman. Sorry, I just got to keep an eye on my phone here because, well, I can't tell you why, but I got to keep an eye on my phone for certain reasons that I cannot mention right now. All right. Let's keep on going here, shall we, guys? Just give me a second to bring up the rest of the questions. By the way, in case you're trying to send in a super chat a little bit earlier, I turned off the super chats because we had enough in there already. We don't want to be here all day, obviously. Let's see. Next up is, where are we? William L, who writes, "Hey, John, sorry to be negative with my first chat. I don't think you were that negative. But on a positive note, I effing love Naked Gun. Listen, I had a really good time with Naked Gun. I thought, and I said this in my review, I thought the movie ran out of steam about a little over an hour into it, because thankfully the movie's only 89 minutes. So I kind of found that the third act of the movie ran out of steam a little bit and the shtick had kind of worn off a bit, but that's okay. There were so many laughs for me in the first hour. Like, I laughed so hard, so often, that even though the last act of the film kind of lost some steam for me, I still walked out of the movie with a big idiot giant grin on my face. Yeah, I really did. Anyway, I'm glad you liked it, man. All right, next up. Sci-Fi Extremist writes, would you go on Robservations to have convos? I mean, listen, I've gone on Robservations when Rob had a special anniversary. He had a special, like, I can't remember which one it was, but he had like a special anniversary episode and he asked me to be on. So obviously I went on. The thing is, I don't really do other people's shows because I'm really busy and it's just a time thing. And Rob understands that. And now before any of you go off and say, well, John, Rob comes on your show. Yes, Rob comes on my show and I pay him a lot to do it. I mean, when you break down what I pay Rob per hour to be on my show, which is one of the reasons why he doesn't stick around for the Q&A, because I kind of pay him based on what an hour would be. And I pay him pretty, and so I should. Well, I should pay him that much because, you know, he's got to set aside the time to be in here like a job and be here for this portion of the day and all that kind of stuff. And I'm happy to pay it 100%. But yeah, so lest any of you go, well, John, that's not fair. Rob comes on your show. Well, yeah, but I also pay him to come on my show as well I should, and as well as he deserves. But otherwise, like, and he does Robservations like in the evenings, and my evenings mostly are meant for me, to hang out with my wife and spend time and have a life. And most of the time Rob does Robservations in the evening. So, but again, if Rob ever needed me for something to come on and talk about something, obviously, of course I would. Of course I would. It just doesn't really ever happen because scheduling my time, when he does the show, all that kind of stuff. But again, I have done it and I will do it again in the future. If he ever said he needed me to, of course I would. All right. Let's see. Where are we at here? Next up is Art Jordan writes, "Hey, John, been watching since Avengers Endgame ticket watch." Oh, that was a fun one to find us on. "I remember struggling to buy tickets, found you, and realized I wasn't the only one." Yeah, I wonder, first of all, thanks for writing that in, man. I wonder if we're ever going to get the chance again, or I'm sure we will, when we'll get a chance again to do a ticket watch. Because, first of all, I don't know when the next movie's coming out. Maybe Spider-Man? What's the next movie? Let me ask you guys in live chat. What's the next movie coming out that like you think realistically could have a ticket watch? Like is realistically, the demand could be so high that it could cause problems with people struggling to get their tickets. A lot of people in the live chat, like Jordan, Fiction Fan, Kevin, they're all saying like Avatar. But here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. Lest you forget, let me bring up something here on Box Office Mojo. Okay? Let me bring this up for a minute. So if we look at Avatar, right? Let's bring up Avatar. And yeah, go ahead. Come on up. Okay, so there's the first Avatar, right? Can you guys see that? Look what the opening weekend was for Avatar. 77 million. Now, it went on to make $2.9 billion, but its opening weekend was a good, but not mind-blowing, $77 million. So if we look at Avatar, The Way of Water, it also did not have an earth-shattering opening weekend. 134. A little bit more than Superman. Now, again, the movie went on to make $2.3 billion, and 134 million is a very good opening. I mean, that's a great opening weekend, but it's not crash the movie ticket sites numbers, right? Because if we look at Spider-Man No Way Home, and I know I misspelled spider, but it knows. Like Spider-Man No Way Home, that did cause problems, but that had double the opening weekend. It didn't make as much as Avatar The Way of Water, but it had a double the size opening weekend. The point is that Avatar films make huge bank, but they don't necessarily have the most massive opening weekends. So I don't know that Avatar is going to justify doing a ticket watch, because people watch the movie over time. They don't tend to rush out to see Avatar on the opening weekend. I kind of think the next one that we'll have a chance to do a ticket watch for is probably the next Spider-Man movie, probably Spider-Man Brand New Day. I could be wrong about that, but that's kind of my, that's my guess. All right. Let's see here. Next up, we've got, thanks for the question, Art. Robert Orzeri, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, writes, "In Superman, why does the Hammer get to fly through U.S. airspace, arrive at the LexCorp building, and no one can track that? Also, notice Pa Kent's eyes moving rapidly side to side during the porch talk." Two things I'll say. I think the Hammer can probably do it without being detected. I think Hammer can do it without being detected. So that's the one thing. With the eyes moving, here's why that works so well. If you're somebody like me, listen, I'm Italian, right? For those of you who don't know, my real name is actually Giovanni. Real opening your heart conversations do not come easily to guys like me. I have like one person in the world that I'm really good at just spilling my heart to and being totally open with my emotions, and that's Anne. I don't even do it very well with my siblings. I mean, to be honest with you, or my dad. I mean, when my mom died a couple of months ago, I'm not going to get emotional. But when my mom died a couple of months ago, I was in the room with my siblings when my mom passed. And we were all there. And that, I think, was the first time, and there's a point to this. So just hang with me for a second. Bear with me for a moment. That was probably the first time in my entire life that I ever cried in front of my siblings. Oh, I was a mess. Anyway, that was the first time I ever just bawled in front of my siblings. I didn't even, my dad wasn't there because he had gone home to take a break, and he was coming back in a bit, and he thought he was going to come back. We're all going to have breakfast. And being the oldest son, it was my job to call my dad and let him know that mom had died. And I didn't even cry in that conversation. I had already bawled my eyes out with my siblings. Then I had to be the one to leave the room, pull up my phone, call my dad, and let him know that mom had died. And I didn't even cry because I'm not a very emotional. I'm kind of emotionally stunted in many ways, if I'm being honest. The only time I've ever cried in front of my dad was sometime later when, not to get into the politics of it all, but there's a lot of nutty stuff going on in the US. And Canadians and other foreign nationals are getting detained at the border and stuff like that. And I had just been recommended by an immigration attorney that it's not a good idea for me to leave the US right now because I may not be able to get back. They could detain me for no reason whatsoever. And I had to miss my mom's memorial service. My dad wanted to have my mom's memorial service 2 months after she passed away on her birthday to be a celebration of life. And when I realized and I found out I couldn't go home for the memorial service, for my own mom's memorial service, that was the conversation that when I called my dad, I broke down and I wept like a baby. And I think other than when I was a little child, that's the first time I ever cried in front of my dad in my life. Now, John, what's the point of all this? The point of all this is that when somebody like me or my dad, because believe me, this is the thing. This is why it hit me so hard, because I recognized my dad in Pa Kent. Whenever guys like us who are completely emotionally stunted trying to have a really open up my heart, have a heart-to-heart talk, it's a little uncomfortable. And when you're saying things you're kind of uncomfortable saying, the eyes, ask any behavioral psychologist, your eyes start to shift. You start doing that. I've caught myself doing it. I've seen it in my dad because you're uncomfortable. And I think when you're a guy, you're a big farming man, like Jonathan Kent, whatever. I think him having that kind of a conversation with Clark, and he's really just opening up his heart, to me, the eyes kind of shifting a bit, that actually meant a lot to me. It did. Again, and I don't know if listen, I'm not saying that was planned. I'm not saying that was in the script. I'm not saying James Gunn told him to do it. Hell, I don't even know if the actor realized he was doing it. To be honest, I don't know. But I'm just saying, for me as an audience member watching it, it made an impact on me because it felt very familiar. And that might have no reason to do with why they did it. I'm just saying, for me, it kind of impacted me that way. Anyway, whatever. Thanks for asking the question, man. Let's see. Next up, we've got Timmy writes, "Hey, John, any plans to see Demon Slayer Infinity Castle movie? No plans whatsoever. It grossed $119.6 million so far worldwide. That's awesome. And had the biggest single day opening. Well, I mean, you probably mean biggest single day opening for an anime or something like that. Anyway, yeah, no, I have no plans to watch it. And that's not me crap talking on it. That's just not my kind of movie. It's not the kind of movie that usually appeals to me. So I'm not going to see it. Again, that's not me bad mouthing it. That's not me talking down on it. That's not me saying you shouldn't love it and enjoy it. It's just not my kind of thing. So if I'm going to not lie to you, then the honest answer is no, I have no plans to watch it, to be honest. All right. Next up, Timmy again writes in. Hey, John, any plans? Oh, no, that was Timmy. Any plans to see? Next up, Jerome writes, do you think the MCU doing less projects each year will lead to less female lead projects? That's a very good question, especially with what happened with Ironheart and the Marvels. Well, okay, hold on a second. Nobody's saying, are they going to make less male lead movies when you look at what happened with Captain America 4 and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania? By the way, Captain Marvel made over $1 billion at the box office. Wonder Woman was one of the highest grossing DCEU films. It was the first one to have like really solid box office success. So yeah, listen, there's going to be bad and underperforming movies, but a couple of them are male ones. Or a couple of them are going to be female ones. Just the way it is. But your question is still a sound question, because like when you look at the bigger heroes in Marvel, right? You're talking Spider-Man, you're talking Iron Man, talking Hulk, talking Captain America, talking Thor. They definitely represent the majority of those recognizable heroes. And so when you reduce the amount of output, do you run the risk of going back to just being completely homogenized where everything's the same? It's all just, because remember, the first 20, and this is just a fact, okay? I'm just giving you a fact. I'm not trying to make a point. I'm just giving you a fact. The first 20 MCU films all had white male leads. Every single one of them. For the first 20 of them. White male leads. As a white male, I clearly have no problem with that. But the point is, they didn't make room for anybody else. Right? They literally did not make room for anybody else. And then finally they started mixing it up. They did Captain Marvel, made over $1 billion. They made Black Panther, made over $1 billion. They started to have some success. If they reduce the amount of output, will that reduce the amount of diversity we see in the movies? Yeah, it probably will, because everything's being reduced. But I have a feeling Kevin Feige will make sure that Marvel continues to be a place for everybody. I think the majority of them are still going to be types of characters like Captain America, like Thor, like Iron Man, that sort of thing. I think that like Peter Parker, I think those are going to continue to be the majority of the stories. But I think Kevin Feige, even with the reduced production load, will always make sure there is a place for everybody at the table. At least that's what I think he's going to do. We'll see. All right. Next up, Timmy writes in again. Also, just for fun, which studio has the best title card? In my opinion, it's Universal. In my opinion, it's the most iconic of them all. Listen, Universal's title card is great. Not just because of the visual image, but that Universal score. Bum, 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 boom, boom, bum, 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 bum. Like it's actually, you feel the history of Hollywood when it's playing, right? So absolutely got to give it that. I will say Paramount, though. And it's changed a lot through the years, but it's always that one thing of the peak of the mountain. I still remember, tell me if you, okay, I'm going to mention a movie in relation to Paramount's title card. Let me see if any of you in the live chat can guess what movie I'm about to bring up. I know there's like a 15-second delay between me saying something and you guys hearing it. So I'm going to give it a minute here. I want to see if any of you guys know the movie I'm thinking about that I'm about to bring up when talking about the Paramount title card and all that kind of stuff. Steven DNA 86 got it. Was the first one to get it. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones, man. That will always, to me, be one of the great dissolve transitions to open a movie. The Paramount logo, and then it dissolves away, and it's the shape of the peak of the mountain that Indiana Jones is in. Mwah! Chef's kiss, iconic. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. All right, and we're down to the last question of the day. Because again, I had turned off Super Chats a while ago. And our last question today comes to us from Liquid, who writes, have you seen the Weapons trailer that warns spoilers ahead, but it's still a piece of marketing? It's still considered a spoiler. It's not. Like they say that, but it's not. Like, I'm sorry, guys, this argument is over. Okay, follow me here. This always comes up with, it comes up all the time. Anything that a studio itself announces, either in a press release or in a trailer or in a clip or in an interview, whenever a filmmaker or the studio itself publicly puts something out, sorry guys, I don't care what you think. It is no longer a spoiler. It's just not. It's just not. Now, that being said, if you want to play semantics, like the trailer, we talk about this every once in a while. You take the movie, the old Samuel L. Jackson, Kevin Spacey movie, The Negotiator. In that trailer, they literally do give the whole movie away. It's not like today where it feels like a trailer's giving away the whole movie and then you watch the movie and you realize it didn't. No, the trailer for The Negotiator with Samuel L. Jackson and Kevin Spacey gives the whole movie away, including the main twist. The main twist in The Negotiator, and I'm about to spoil the movie for you, but whatever, it's 20 plus years old. If you haven't seen it, you don't care about it. The main twist in The Negotiator is that the hostage negotiator, Kevin Spacey, ends up joining forces with the guy who's taken the hostages. And they literally give that away in the trailer. It's something that happens in the third act of the film. It's the major twist of the film. And they literally give it away in the trailer where you see Samuel L. Jackson and Kevin Spacey side by side. And Kevin Spacey's on the walkie-talkie going, now you got to deal with both of us. You just gave away the main twist of the movie. I mean, at least the main, listen, maybe the twist is the wrong word. You just gave away the major point, the major plot pivot. That was the major plot pivot of the movie. And you literally gave it away in the trailer. Now, we can sit there and say, was that a spoiler, whatever? And you're getting into semantics, and it's a good conversation to have because that's a major story point. But here's the main thing I'm talking about. When talking about if a studio announces something, it's not a spoiler anymore. It's normally things that aren't even plot points. For example, they announced that Supergirl was going to be in Superman. They literally announced it. Like they announced it like a year before the movie came out. And I even brought up the headlines, like we were talking about on the show, and I literally brought up the headlines of blah, blah, Supergirl to appear in Superman. And I even brought up the IMDb page. Guys, it's been listed publicly on the IMDb page. Blah, blah, blah. I forget her name now. Playing Supergirl in Superman. Like, this is public knowledge. It's out there. It's been announced. Well, I didn't know. So when you said Supergirl's in the movie, that's a spoiler. No, it's not. No, it's not. Once a studio makes information public, it's no longer a spoiler. Because here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. If you're going to say that's a spoiler, then that story we did earlier in the show today about Dave Bautista is now the Kurgan, then you're saying that's a spoiler. John, you just talked about how Dave Bautista's Kurgan? I didn't want to know that. I want to go into the movie clean. You just spoiled it for me. I wanted it to be a surprise. Okay, but then don't watch movie talk shows. The studio has announced Dave Bautista is going to be Kurgan. That's not a spoiler. But I didn't want to know. Well, tough. Tough. Once the studio decides to make information public, it's not a spoiler anymore. Now, again, you can have a conversation about them giving away major plot and story pivots. Is that something different? Well, maybe. But saying, hey guys, Tom Cruise appears in this movie. It just got released in Deadline. The Tom Cruise appears in this movie. That's a spoiler. No, it's not. No, it's not. Hey guys, they just revealed that this movie is going to set up another movie they've got coming in 3 years. I didn't want to know that. Well, too bad. The studio's made it public. They've announced it. So it is no longer a spoiler. It just isn't. And we can play semantics all we want, but it isn't. Unless you're willing to say that them now just announcing that Dave Bautista is going to be the Kurgan in the upcoming Highlander film, unless you're going to call that a spoiler, then you can't call us talking about Supergirl being in Superman when it was public information a spoiler either. You can't have one and not the other anyway. So no, it's not a spoiler. Once the studio makes information public, whether it's the filmmaker, the studio itself, whatever, be it in a press release, an interview, a trailer, a teaser, whatever. That's the thing. Daniel Kinder literally just said it. They're right. By that logic, everything in a trailer is a spoiler. Everything in a trailer is a spoiler. Because every second of a trailer is showing you something that's in the movie that you didn't know was in the movie before you watched the trailer. So, yeah, I just come across a lot of people that clutch their pearls and become very liquid in when they decide a principle is a spoiler and when it's not. And anyway, it just is. Just is. Anyway, guys. But thank you for writing in the question, Liquid. I do appreciate you like asking the question out in the open. So thank you so much for sending that in. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Especially this also do it for the week. So thank you for joining us all week and for making it through to the end of Friday. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Big thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett for being here. And that'll do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us. My name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.